Recording in progress.
All right, we good?
I think so.
All right. We are already in session because we had an executive session and then left executive session to come in, so we do not need to call the meeting to order. But we do have a action-packed agenda tonight, and we're going to be very efficient with our time. Wendy, I'm looking at you. I kid. I'm not kidding. Make that stop. But I will kick us off with board and committee openings. As a reminder to folks listening, all of y'all who have so much involvement online, we'd love for you to get involved in real life, and here's how you can do it. The Conservation Commission has 2 openings. The Council on Aging has 2 associate openings. The Finance and Advisory Committee has 1 associate opening. The Historic District Commission has 2 openings for 3-year terms and 2 openings for 2-year terms. And one must be a resident of the Historic District and 1 must be a resident realtor. The Human Rights Commission has 1 opening, and the Planning Board has 1 associate opening, and the Zoning Board of Appeals has 1 associate opening. At this point, we will go to public comment. As a reminder, public comment is 3 minutes on anything not currently on the agenda. If your topic is on the agenda, please wait and hold your comments until the topic is at hand. I see we have Corinne.
Good evening, everyone. Corinne Kale, Town Clerk. I do have a few items I just wanted to bring to the attention of the Select Board and to any residents listening or reading at a later date. Some things impacting all the residents as well as things impacting elected and appointed officials. So first thing, tied to the census. We've tried really hard to get people to return their census forms, but there's slightly over 800 that have not yet been returned. So today I had to do what I am required to do by law, which is called mass inactivation. Anyone who did not return their census form has been marked as inactive in the voting system. To make a long story short, I always say to people who arrive to vote and find out they're inactive and are required to prove their residency, it really does make sense. If you don't live here, you can't vote here. So the census is my only way of knowing who lives here. So unfortunately, as I said, 1,322 moved to inactive. We don't like to see that in a presidential election year. Unfortunately, it's going to cost the town $2,000 because next week we have to mail out to every one of these inactive voters what's called a confirmation card. It's kind of their last chance to say, yep, I still live here, or nope, I moved. So those will be going out in the mail, and I encourage people, if they get that, please return it as soon as possible. Otherwise, when it comes to the election, if we haven't heard from you, you are going to hold up the line, and people will not be happy. So just want to get that out there. June 1st, dog license application late fees went into effect. So if you hadn't gotten it in yet, in addition to the, did we lose the microphone? In addition to the, what is this thing? In addition to the fee, there will be the late fee as well. Another topic for elected and appointed officials, as well as some employees, is compliance with the conflict of interest law. As folks know, every other year we all have to complete a lengthy training, but every year we have to acknowledge receipt of the summary. I had a 1-hour training on that again today, emphasizing the role of town clerks and making sure that this gets done. So lots of people are going to be hearing from me over the next week or so. We're at about 50%. We've had 179 completed and about 180 not done for the acknowledgement. Yes, some of you are acknowledging that I've reached out to you and you followed up, so I appreciate that. I always love to see those get completed. Last but not least, campaign finance, Office of Campaign Political Finance forms. There are a few from the most recent election that are still outstanding. So I'll be reaching out to the folks there because I don't want to get in trouble by not making an effort to solicit compliance, and I want to keep everybody else out of trouble too. So thank you. I think that might have been a little more than 3 minutes, but appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. Do we have any additional public comment? We do. Come on up.
Hi,
can you read? Deb Safford.
We, we apologize on behalf
okay.
of the microphone. It's not personal.
So just hold it. Deb Safford from Maple Street. Just keep holding this. At the risk of being called intolerant and a bigot, I just want to point to the charter of the Hamilton Human Rights Commission Charter, which talks about striving that all people feel safe in Hamilton and enjoy the equal opportunity to participate in local affairs, access to services, education, public forums. I'm just stating that up front because, oh, thank you. Because sometimes when we point out a different perspective, we can be called bigots or, people become intolerant of you. And I'm just coming with a heart, not for being unkind, but for just being true to myself. I just feel called to speak here today. So thank you for letting me do that. And I do appreciate the goal of the Human Rights Commission to advocate for those people. But I'm specifically today asking about the town's sponsorship with the library, the Patton Homestead, and the town of Hamilton with drag makeup tutorials at this year's picnic. Last year it was drag bingo. This year it's tutorials for makeup. So teaching the kids how to make up and look drag. And the town, in sponsoring these events through the Human Rights Coalition, which aligns with the the commission aligns with the coalition. It's all very connected. We're sponsoring those. The logos are there, and the town, therefore, is on record for sponsoring grooming and sexualizing events for our littlest residents. And this is upsetting to me. I ask this because to look and to be drag is basically leading and sanctioning kids down a path of this adult sexual content. Drag shows used to be adult entertainment, and whatever, go for it if you're an adult. I don't care. But I'd like to know that given these sponsorships of town organizations that our tax dollars support, so these are our tax dollars that are funding the library and funding the Patton Homestead and funding the town, how much has gone to support this event? And is the school, are you guys, as the select board, are you guys on the record that you're supporting these grooming events? Again, drag by definition is dressing and acting provocatively in a gender stereotype opposite to your birth sex. It's adult content. Being a kid, I think, is hard enough without social confusion and social contagion. So I don't hate those in drag. I'm not against that, but I think we have to be really consistent as a town, because if I was going to come and ask for town property to be used for an event, to have a baptism and bring people to Christ, would that be allowed? My guess is that there would evoke a separation of church and state to some event, and I don't think we should be hypocritical that way. I think if the town is going to sponsor an event, it should be something that supports really everybody and isn't a controversial thing. So if you're not going to support using the Patton Homestead public property for events that are for a baptism to Jesus, then we shouldn't be holding it to sexualize and groom our kids. So I'm asking the select board to consider removing sponsorship of events going forward. It's too late for this one, that have political activism in their nature. If you look at the Hamilton Wenham Coalition site, it's very specific that it's activism. For what they're passionate about, but it's still a political activism. And I don't think our town should be doing that, because you're not doing it for both sides. We just want to be supporting those events that really support all the residents, because we're all humans. And, opposite of political persuasion, sexuality, heritage, and all that, I hope that the select board will consider in the future not sponsoring events that have such distinct grooming, sexualization of our children. I think it's a very scary time with our kids. It's confusing enough. So I hope you'll take this into consideration. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Michael Madden, Highland Street. I didn't plan on coming up here speaking tonight, but I just wanted to follow up on those last comments by that lady. I mention this because I think this year to be raising a Palestinian flag if the Human Rights Coalition group and Commission group is really about human rights. And I brought this up with some members. I haven't gotten any feedback, but we've all seen the terrible human rights abuses towards the Palestinian people this year. So if we're really, really about human rights group, I think, and I'd like to ask the Select Board to consider that. I'm Irish. This past week, 3 countries in Europe, including Ireland and Norway and Spain, they recognize the state of Palestine as a state. The human rights abuses there are horrible. I think we've all seen it. 36,000 plus people have gotten killed. So I wanted to bring that up. And I'm also looking at other notes that I have. I'm saying that this, in addition, to recognize the human rights abuses against the Palestinian population, and that we should all rally around raising the Palestinian flag in our towns. After all, it's a human rights group, as I mentioned, because I think if we don't, it can be perceived that we cherry pick what we push, and we can be perceived as a political activist group, like that last lady mentioned. And again, this is ad hoc. I wasn't planning on being up here tonight, but that group, to me, is looking like a political activist group. And if it's really all about human rights, then let's raise the Palestinian flag and show that we really care about these people. Thank you.
Any additional public comment online or in the room?
Somebody online is seeing.
Al, you are off mute. Did you have comment? No? Okay. Again, thank you for the comment. We don't typically respond to comments publicly within the select board meeting, but I do appreciate you guys coming, and we can certainly follow up after the meeting. We can move to select board member and town manager reports. Do we have any select board member reports today? Bill Olson, anything from you?
I don't know. Would have liked to attend the, it's June, so we're in the Pride month, so I would like to attend there was a flag raise at 5:30, but
I was there.
not get to go, but how did it go? Did it go well?
It was good, yeah. A small but mighty turnout of folks. The Pride Picnic is this coming weekend at the Patton Homestead, and the police department was there, and a number of youth were there as well. But it was a nice gathering. Rosemary, anything from you?
The only thing I wanted to mention was that I attended the Hamilton Wenham High School graduation on Saturday, and I have to say it was spectacular. The kids, oh my gosh, they supported each other from start to finish. It was very heartwarming. It was a very congenial group. Special shout out to Joey Coughlin, who graduated. It was a great event, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. Great job, Hamilton Wenham Regional School District, for having kids who are so committed to each other.
We've also gotten, we had absolutely nothing to do with it, but the signs along 1A, I've heard nothing but positive feedback about that. So I think making sure that folks recognize that we can continue to do that in the future is important. Anything from you?
I've just continued with schools. I guess the last day is, I believe, June 13th for the district. So another great year and graduation. Good comments on that. Also, relative to, there's a school committee meeting this Thursday where they will review the informational survey or polling that went out. Many of the residents may have got it, hopefully have responded to it. So if you're interested in those results, I know the subcommittee will be reviewing those results on Thursday. And tentatively, depending, they will be 2 votes potentially, one on the preferred option, which right now is the Cutler School consolidation. So I think that'll be a thumbs up or a thumbs down based on the school committee's whatever happens at that meeting. If it is an up, I think then the next vote would be to the MSBA or the state school education department on grade reconfiguration, because if that does go through, they'll reconfigure the schools grading with kindergartens at Bucher, and of course Cutler would have the elementary school. So big night on Thursday for the school committee. As far as the master plan goes, that steering committee was finished and completed, that's with the planning board. The planning board has now met twice on it. First time in reviewing it, I think there was a lot of back and forth and kind of want to rewrite it and do a lot of aggressive things. I know Marnie, the last meeting I didn't attend, but I did watch. It seems like they've got a directive now to kind of go in and really, not change the content, because a lot of that came from focus meetings with citizens and a lot of hard work, but, take some editorial chances and connect the elements a little bit better. So I think over their next meeting, they were tasked with coming back with some edits. So my hope is that over the next month or so, we'll see a final document on that. We'll see.
Way to stick with it, Bill.
A couple of birthdays on that one.
Yeah. Continuing, and jump in on any of this you want to. We did kick off the reopening of the regional school district agreement last week with Eric and Dana and representatives from the Hamilton and Wyndham Select Boards, and as well as Joe. Next, I think, is going to be a conversation with our lawyers, where everybody sort of brings their asks to the table so that we can work through getting a draft put together. For folks who don't know or haven't been, plugged into this, our school agreement, is it 1959?
1959 was the
1959 was the original draft agreement. It is as 1959 as one might imagine. And it was never holistically rewritten. And so it's been amended multiple times, but it is sort of a Frankenstein document. So there's two parts to this. One is some of the content that I think we want to look at, codifying some things that have not been codified, but also restructuring the entire agreement so that it reads more comprehensively and more succinctly. So ultimately that will come before the towns before it goes forward, but that, there's a long tail on that work that we've kicked off. Also, congratulations to our town manager, who has, as of 22 minutes ago, signed the next 3 years of his life away to the town of Hamilton for another 3 years. So we're excited about that. And then also, Gordon Conwell has signed a P&S agreement to sell the apartments on their property. This is just the apartments, and I think it's 11 acres around the apartments. It is not any substantial transfer of land. The current intended use is to continue to have those be apartment housing, rental apartment housing, some for folks who live or work at Gordon Conwell, but also for the community at large. We are currently in the process of working with not only the seminary, but also the buyers to try to leverage this opportunity to get as much affordable housing on our SHI as we possibly can. Those conversations I personally had 5 meetings last week on it. I think Joe had at least an additional 3. So we're sort of doing everything we can. We don't have that many levers to pull, but we have a really good buyer. There's been a lot of transparency and a lot of eagerness to try to work with the town to do what we can to get additional affordable housing on the books. So we're excited about that. Anything else? The dorms. Just the dorms. And it's,
The dorms and the parking lots.
And the
So it-
parking,
it
yeah.
amounts to about a total of 11 acres for the 6 buildings and the associated parking lots.
And it's not public record yet.
The sale hasn't gone through, it's a P&S, there's 60 days of due diligence.
Yep.
We have been introduced to the prospective owners and discussed the affordable housing component with them, and we're working diligently to come to an agreement on how we are going to pursue that.
Yeah.
They have been receptive, so they
Yep.
are not arguing with us at this point, so.
And they are deeply incentivized to make minimal changes to the buildings themselves because of the way that the buildings were built, the zoning and coding of the current buildings. And so right now the plan is quite literally to not change anything about the exterior. There's no expansion, there's no addition. It is literally just interior renovations and continuing to use them for housing.
Do they take over the septic as well?
That's part of the ongoing conversations of how we sort of separate the septic or don't, or how it sort of.
Question for people.
Oh, there was, folks in the room had questions about the sale of Gordon Conwell, clarifying that it is the dorms, and then a question about the septic. And that is part of the ongoing conversations with the seminary.
Yep.
I mean, I will say, we feel cautiously optimistic about this. I think after the year and a half that we've all put in a lot of, ourselves, the planning board, yeah, everybody else is really feeling optimistic that this is a good opportunity for us, and we're encouraged by the buyer, and their willingness to really work with us in a way that they candidly maybe didn't need to, but have been really open to doing. So it feels pretty good at the beginning.
There are 209 units in the 6 buildings, where our goal is to try to get 25% of the units count as, to be actual affordable units. And if we're then able to do that, we will argue to the state that just as with a new building project, all 209 units should be counted on the SHI. We're not sure that they'll agree to that, the state, that is not, but we're working on that.
Yeah. The state is in the business of not approving, right? Their job is to make sure that you sort of don't get to that number. And I think our challenge here is that, 40B and the affordable housing is about new construction, not existing or conversion projects. We do think that there are some interesting things about this conversion project that make, I mean, as I think our lawyer said, he has extreme skepticism, but there's enough of a chance that we should at least go down that path, which we are, so. How many units have we got right now? About 213. Yeah.
It's actually a little less than that because we have units that are in the pipeline. So you had the 18 units on Willow Street come online a couple years ago. Those count. Now, that took us a little closer. Then we had 10 units of Habitat for Humanity on Asbury Street that are under construction and are on the SHI. And there's another 45 units across the street on Asbury Street that are in the pipeline. They haven't been given a building permit yet. So I think when all is said and done, you'd be looking at more like 150 to 160 units that we still need to get to 10%. As Carolyn noted, the state's goal is to have more new housing built, and inclusive of affordable housing. Our argument that we're going to make to the state is, as far as the market is concerned, these are new units because though they were there and they're older construction, thanks, Phil. They were only available to members of the Gordon Conwell community. They were not available on the general market. So now that they're on the general market, we feel like they should count just like a new construction project would.
Yeah. We'll see if the state cares about what we think. But even at 25%, I think to take 50, to get actual 50 affordable, that would be a big chunk. So, cool. All right. Next, we have the consent agenda. I'll entertain.
One more thing,
Oh, sorry.
Go back to me. I don't know much of the details, but take a moment to recognize sort of Peter Britton. I heard over the last week that he had passed away. He's been an anchor of our community, helping develop the Burkent's Farm and getting us into a compost program and really giving back to the community through his property that he's given to a 40B property. So I just want to take a moment to really wish his family well and say we appreciate all that he did for our community. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Next up, we have a consent agenda, which is approving the minutes of May 6th and May 20th, and approving the Coast to Cure bike ride through Hamilton on September 7th, 2024. I would entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. To the meat of it, my friends. As a reminder, I do have to duck out a little bit early this evening, but you'll be in the capable hands of Bill Wilson, who most people like more anyway. So
More than most.
I think that'll be fine. First do we have Jeff here? Is he on? You're Jeff. Jeff. Hi. We are here to approve the appointment of Jeff Austin as an associate member of the planning board. Would you like to come up and say a few words? Convince us.
Jeff Austin, 50 Sharon Road, South Hamilton. So I was in front of the planning board, I think it was last week, did an interview. Some of the questions came up was, what experience do you have? I don't have any official planning experience. There's a desire to have more people join boards. I have an interest in helping out the community, so I stepped up. My background is product ownership and engineering, so I have a little bit of idea of how to plan things out. I'm not sure this correlates, but I'm willing to learn, and so I put an application in.
Absolutely.
That's where I am now.
We appreciate that more than you know.
Excellent.
All right, I will entertain a motion to begin.
I make a motion that we approve Jeff Austin as a associate member to the planning board.
Awesome. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Awesome. Any additional questions or comments?
Oh, yes. So when I read your resume, oh my God, I don't even know what language it is. It sounds very techy, so I'm sure you'll be very helpful.
Thank you.
I love that. Any other questions?
I mean, there's a lot going on in town, right? Just wanted to get just thoughts on what's going on, like between schools and the different, different developments and stuff. Have you been involved in that stuff? Have any sort of,
Yeah, so
how you want to help those processes, either get repeat
learn, be aware. I mean, so I've been in town 15 years. I got two, when I came, there were two small children. They're 12 and 14 now. So, I started watching the community channel here and there as they were young, and I was busy when they were young, and now that they're a little bit older, I have some time, and, there's a lot of changes in town that piqued my interest of learning more. Because as you know, you can get on social media and you can hear all the rhetoric and a lot of rumors and whatnot, and I thought the best way to really learn is from the source of the truth and get involved and be aware. So that's where the precipice started for me to get involved.
Great, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
No, looks good. If you can get that master plan moving for us, that'd be great.
Awesome. Well, with no further ado, I will, all in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Not vote yet?
They did.
Oh, they did it unanimous.
Yeah, they were unanimous, yeah.
I didn't see it in the letter, though. I missed that in the letter.
Yeah, there was an email from
Marnie sent a
There's an
separate,
email from Marty.
This is a separate one.
yeah,
It's not in there?
it's in there.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was separate from the
You
application.
don't have to feel sheepish when you duck out. I want you to know, it doesn't hurt our feelings like it used to when people do that. All right. Next up, we are going to remove. We're going to remove. No, we're going to review the matching funds proposal for the Patton Pavilion at Homestead with Holly, and there will be a vote here.
Hello, Holly.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening tonight. I wanted to just do a little recap for anyone who is not familiar with this conversation. So in 2012, when Joanne Patton gifted her land and family home to the town of Hamilton, known as the Patton Homestead, she did so in the hope of protecting the property for all to enjoy and to provide a place where community could grow through public engagement and cultural enrichment. As you know, in May 2023, Mass Cultural Council approved the Patton Homestead for an $87,000 facilities grant for building a covered shelter structure, which would aid cultural events and programs, which you have graciously agreed to name after Joanne Holbrook Patton in honor of Joanne's devotion to strengthening the community. As the grant is contingent on a 1-1 match of funds, you also generously agreed to release $50,000 if the Friends of the Patton Homestead could raise $25,000. The total would be $75,000 towards the match. I'm here today to share that the Friends have raised $21,403.80. There are still more donations pending. I am grateful for their ongoing efforts to raise money for the grant, which they have helped to write. However, time is of the essence. As you know, the longer we go without reliable shelter, no visible progress, the harder it is to keep the momentum from the past years, the positive momentum from the last few years going. With the addition of the new Joanne Holbrook Patton Pavilion, the town will not only memorialize a woman who has made such a positive impact to the town, but it would also create a reliable gathering space to bring Joanne's vision to life. I am seeking your help here this evening by asking you to consider the arrangement that was made when the $50,000 from the town was dedicated to the project, pending that the Friends of the Patton Homestead raised $25,000. Given the shrinking timeline to get this project underway, the tremendous effort that this volunteer group has made to raise money on the town's behalf, I would like to ask that you lift the restriction here today. I'm currently working on a benefit showcase, aiming to raise additional funds to add to the match. With the ongoing effort of the Friends, along with modest money brought in by the showcase, I believe we will be close to the $25,000 by the end of the month. $150,000 will be sufficient funding to adequately pay for the pavilion on the grounds of the Patton Homestead, where a covered, reliable site can be used to program. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Just have a question about the size of the pavilion. How many people will be able to be accommodated? And then where exactly at the property will it be located?
That's a great question. In the paperwork that was submitted to the Mass Cultural Council, we submitted a design that was in the frame of 30 feet by 50 feet in the hope of seating 100 people.
And where will it be located?
Oh, the back side of the Patton Homestead offers a little bit of an elevated surface where the pool shed is. And there is a drawing that is part of the grant, which I can always pass along to the committee to.
So it won't affect that gorgeous vista?
It won't affect the vista. The idea is that it will play into and elevate the vista so that not only can we do cultural programming, but we can do all sorts of different types of events. And it will actually draw people to the property, and you'll be able to kind of see through this shelter.
Okay. Right, so I understand that it's going to be over near where the stable area is?
Sorry, there's a pump house where the old pool is. Can you picture where that is? There's a
Oh,
cluster of
down,
trees.
down.
Yeah, and so it'd be nestled in with the cluster of trees, and so it actually eliminate the eyesore, what I think is a little bit of an eyesore of the pump house. But it's much larger, and it will actually, I think it will be quite elegant.
Okay. And it's, what's the material that,
None of this has been decided upon because in terms of like the nuts and bolts of it, we sort of need to have some funding in place to be able to spend money for any kind of design. But in theory, in the hypothetical workup that we did in the application for the grant, we were working with wood, we were working with asphalt shingles, very basic building materials.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
So what would the timeline be then, if you were to get this money released and you can get the design going? When would we be looking at a pavilion?
It would be really nice to have the money released so that we can get some actual money on paper, like the funding on paper, get it designed this summer and break ground before snow flies, essentially.
Okay.
It would probably do a procurement process that would ask for a design build type of approach. 'Cause we know basically what we want. We'd have
Right.
a little bit of input as to what the design would look like, and then be able to do a design build, get the building permits, and get it up.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we're able to utilize the grant funding that was
So
made
would
available to the state.
We'd look at a 25 season, potentially?
Probably 25 season but hopefully opening the 25 season.
Right.
I think that if we stall any longer and start this process,
Right.
this time next year,
Yep.
it's a short fair weather season for me, as I'm sure you can imagine. And I would love to activate it.
Okay, good.
So we've already, this board, in a former iteration, already gave support for the project, gave support for the pavilion. Specifically today, we said we'd give 50 once 25 was earned. There's 21 has been donated. So the vote for us today is, will we release the 50? And Bill, will you write a check for the other 4? I think, right, yeah.
Gosh.
This is
Gee,
how volunteers get treated, Jack.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
But I think I read too that with some of the activity you have in place by the end of this month, potentially you think you'll be knocking on the door. of
That's
that.
right, yeah.
But there are some concerns about, the
Timeline.
timing and the grant money going, and if we miss that window, then we won't even have the 75 from the state, so.
Got it.
Yeah, the question before you today is, do we vote to approve the release of the 50, given what we have now?
With the understanding that you will continue to fundraise to reach your portion of the commitment.
That's right.
Yeah, perfect.
Any additional thoughts, concerns, questions, queries?
I would make a motion to release the $50,000 of opera funding towards the Patton Pavilion.
Second.
Ooh, who said it first?
Yeah.
Oh, Bill. Right.
There's an event coming up at the Patton
Yeah.
Homestead.
Well, there's one on Thursday. Unfortunately, it looks rainy again.
I was out of town. Did they get rained out last
Yeah.
Thursday too? Or?
Yeah, it got rained out last Thursday, but we do have a rain date coming up for the benefit, so hopefully something will pan out. And I really appreciate your support, and hopefully we can get this project going. So.
They didn't vote yet.
Well,
I know.
It's
so
been moved and
all-
seconded. You gotta wait.
I love
sorry,
your optimism.
sorry to get ahead of
It's
myself.
good to put some pre-guilt in there before. All in favor?
Assume the close.
Aye. All right,
Okay.
unanimous. Ayes have it.
Okay, so thank you so much for your support.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment that there are some people on Zoom who say that they can't hear us, so I wonder if
Yeah, the issue isn't, the
we
issue
could
isn't,
speak more into the microphones.
can they not hear
Is
us
it
at
them
all?
or us or
They
both?
said they can't hear the Zoom.
And somebody asked, please repeat again where the site is. So it's at Patton Homestead and the back acreage behind the house and the barn and the stable, down the slope. There is where the pool used to be. There is a pump house. See, the problem is HW can't turn on their mic. Turning that off, I'm trying to, hopefully you can hear me this way. So it's near where the old pool used to be, sort of adjacent to where the pump house is, but blended into the little group of trees, so that it won't break up the visual, the look across the lawn towards the river. I hope you all heard that this time.
Muting me.
What's that?
I keep unmuting and I
But
get.
whenever you're unmuted, I get feedback right here.
Oh, so is somebody unmuted though, so they can hear you at home?
Oh, so why don't you turn off your volume all the way and then
I'm
Yeah,
all-
if you
I'm-
turn off your volume
I-
and make sure you're muted.
I'm already muted. I've already got my microphone off and my speaker off. Everything's off.
Does anybody else have theirs on, their volume?
I'm not logged in.
I got nothing.
I'm not on
What
it.
happens there? Try to unmute again and let's see what
Yeah,
happens.
I'll give it a minute.
I just hit some buttons. Well, maybe. We have any techies in the room?
Wish we knew
I
the
just
trick.
hate to think the public has missed all this excitement.
They're starting
We've
again.
been on fire.
Get the script.
Just like, let's just rewind it. We'll just do it all over again.
So just in case people are not sure, the Zoom is a courtesy. It's not a requirement of the meeting. The meeting, it's an open in-person meeting. We provide Zoom to try to help people participate, but if it acts up, we don't cancel the meeting or so.
John,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm recording on Zoom too, so this will be fine there, but I just.
John McGrath in chat, can you hear us at this point?
John McGrath left.
John
Oh, he's
Griffin,
not there
yeah,
anymore.
He left.
That's hurtful. All right, well, if folks online continue to have problems, just let us know. Or join us here at the library. It's a good time. All right, Wendy. Ooh. Next, we're going to review the proposed financial policies with Finance Director Wendy Markowitz.
Oh, bye, thanks. Appreciate your support. Okay, thank you. So, preparing for the fiscal '24 audit, it is important that we are in compliance with our financial policies, and I know that we've been making progress and working very hard to get as close, caught up to date as we can. So I'm just bringing to your attention future policies that will be coming to you from the FinCom with their proposal and recommendation. So the policies are grant management policy, procurement conflict of interest, and comprehensive public records and technology policy. So in summary, grant management policy kind of goes in hand in hand with the position that has been opened up for a grant, I can't remember the name, grant position, I don't know, Joe, he's not listening.
Grant and communications.
Thank you, sorry. So the policy in summary, to ensure Hamilton efficiently and appropriately manages its grant-funded programs, this policy sets a framework for evaluating grant opportunities, tracking grant activity, and processing grant revenues and expenditures. Effective grant management helps promote the pursuit of grants that are in the town's best interest and assure timely reimbursements to optimize cash flow, to guard against year-end account deficits. What that basically means is, if you don't have somebody paying attention, you can't, send out for reimbursement. A lot of the grants are reimbursement type, and you need that person to be on the back end searching for the grants and applying for the grants and then seeking reimbursement. So then that will be more efficient. As a legal contract, every grant agreement must be fulfilled in accordance with its prescribed terms and conditions, as well as all applicable federal, state, and local regulations. Failure in this regard exposes the town legal and financial liabilities and compromises future grant funding. That is the summary. The policy is much more lengthy, and you will have it when it's complete. Number 2, procurement conflict of interest. Summary is to ensure integrity of the procurement and contract processes, to educate town employees, consultants, uncompensated outside parties, and any other person involved in decisions to award contracts about potential conflicts of interest and to establish a process for the screening of conflict of interest. Just making sure that when we, go out to bid or receive contracts, that there's no conflict of interest between the town and any potential vendor. 3, comprehensive public records and technology policy. This is just basically to communicate to all town employees the importance and responsibility of one's awareness and compliance related to public records management and the use of technology. It's pretty common right now, so it goes hand in hand, and we just want to make sure everybody's aware and just get these policies adopted officially. So that's just for your awareness. There's no vote. It's just to let you know that this is what's coming down.
Process is these will go to the FinCom, who will review them, make recommendations, adjustments, and then they'll come back to you for adoption. Probably in July, hopefully.
Sounds like a good month.
FinCom can turn them around.
So Joe, we had a long list of financial policies like years ago. We've been knocking them off. Is there like a comprehensive list that we're sort of, can we see where we're at?
Yeah, we can get you that.
Yes.
That's
but
exactly
it's-
my
But this
question.
is, two of these policies were part of that.
Yeah, no, I agree, yeah. I recognize them, but I forget what the other ones were, sort of.
Yeah, it'd be good to kind of see what they are, when they were last adopted, and then kind of like what's your next 3, 4, whatever.
The-
I think this,
we need to
I
definitely
think if
do
we
this
get these, we'll be at 11 or 12 out of 18, or?
Yeah, we're making good progress, that's for sure.
That's
And-
good stuff.
And these were the ones that were highlighted by the auditors as the most,
Okay, all right.
needed. So-
Yes.
Not needed, I should say, the highest priority.
And the highest, risk, whatever, yeah, risk
Right.
assessment.
Right.
We haven't had any issues, but let's avoid them.
Okay. You want me to stay here for the next thing?
I think so. So we're good with that? Any other questions? Okay. So next up on the agenda is a review proposed amendments to personnel policies with Town Manager and Finance Director Wendy. So I think there were a lot of collective bargaining activity over the past X months, and we're going to talk about some of the things that happened.
I'll ask Wendy to highlight them, I'll just set it up for her. So we negotiated, this year for the first time, the town negotiated with all 5 unions at the same time. We had done that intentionally to try to get all the unions on the same schedule, but also to negotiate with them in the same climate. At different times in the past, you'd negotiate with 3 unions for a 3-year contract, and then, you can't hear me? So we've updated our schedule for negotiating our contracts with the unions. We've got all the unions on the same schedule now. All 5 unions negotiated contracts this year. Part of the reason for doing that is to make sure that all the unions are being treated fairly. And through the negotiations, through the collective bargaining discussions, we did provide some additional benefits, I guess you'd call them, to the union personnel that kind of go into the category of helping employee morale. Just things that make them feel better, things they'd ask for that don't cost us a lot of money but help them feel appreciated. And now that we've done that with the 5 unions, we're asking the select board to endorse us doing that with the non-union personnel. So if you review, Wendy will review these with you tonight, and then if you approve this, we will have the language adopted and put into amended personnel policies that we'll bring back to you in July to have voted.
So there are 5 pieces of the union contracts that would also affect non-union employees. First of all, the COLA increase of 3.5%, which is effective on July 1st of the new fiscal year. The second change is annual longevity bonus. So that was only in a couple contracts. Now it's in all 5 to be paid the first paycheck of the new fiscal year. All 5 CBAs include an annual longevity bonus for full-time employees from 7 to 10 years, $1,800, 11 to 19 years, $2,000, and 21 years or more of service, $2,250. Currently, there are 6 positions that are not in department head positions that would be considered eligible for an annual longevity bonus. The Director of Assessing, Town Accountant, Treasurer, Assistant DPW Director, Assistant Treasurer, and Conservation Agent. Of the 6 positions, there are 2 positions that meet the criteria in years of anywhere from 7 to 20 years. The other ones are not quite there. They may come along in the future, but not right now. Birthday day off. All exempt employees would have the same benefit as collective bargaining units to take their birthday day off in close proximity to the actual day without causing an overtime situation. Vacation buyback and carry forward for all exempt employees would have the same opportunity to request up to 1 week of unused vacation buyback prior to the end of the fiscal year, which we cannot currently do. And the second is to request up to 1 week of unused vacation at the end of the fiscal year to be carried over now from July 31st to August 31st of the next fiscal year to make it easier for people to use their time. And the last one is all eligible step increases would be effective in the last paycheck in January. Currently, they're all whenever their date of hire is, so this would make it streamlined and much more efficient, and everybody would be on the same page. That's it.
Do you have any questions for us?
Has this been quantified, an impact to the budget? I mean, there's some things that are, it looks
The-
like it rolls forward, right? To get everyone on the same page, obviously someone's gonna get an earlier than anticipated
correct.
step.
This
or-
first year, there'll be a couple of those, but they won't, the unions had all agreed to it, and it'll help us. Part of the thing you have to keep in mind is that we have a small accounting and department, and we actually have one person who does all the payroll stuff. And right now, every month, she's running around chasing different people to get their anniversary dates to make sure that you can get their step increases. If by moving everybody to step increases happening once a year, it's just like COLAs. She can adjust everybody's pay for step increases once a year, and then all the work is done. And we do the same thing already with COLAs. So that'll be, you'll get your step increase in January, you'll get your COLA in July, and no other pay adjustments in between.
And the salary reserve, that was part of the budget,
Okay.
takes all of this into consideration.
Any questions over there?
It's pretty comprehensive.
The 5 unions, so there was a question from the audience about what are the 5 unions? We have a police union, a fire union, a DPW workers union, an administrative clerical union, and
ECO, dispatch.
ECO, the dispatchers union. So 3 of them are public safety units, one is public works, and the other is the admin, townwide.
So the vacation, always was a carry forward, right? The buyback is.
There was a carry forward for 1 week, up to 1 week, for only 1 month. Unless there were extenuating circumstances, the town manager could approve, it longer. We've negotiated that we'd allow everybody that carries forward to carry forward, have until end of August, but there really would have to be an extreme situation to approve anything beyond August 31st.
And it becomes difficult with July 31st because of the year end, and everybody's scrambling to make sure that all the year end
Right,
stuff is complete.
right.
And then in a union like the DPW union, part of the reason this got negotiated in is, a union like the DPW union, we get a lot of work done in the summertime. So now, all of a sudden, some of the older employees that have been here for a while are trying to use their vacation time in June and July, or they lose it. So we have 2 different incentives. One, if you are an older employee and you have maxed out at 4 or 5 weeks, you don't have to use it. You can sell 1 week back to the town and get paid for it. And then the other one, you'd have until the end of August to use, and that allows us to be able to keep scheduling work to get done and have employees available to get that work done.
Yep, makes sense. How many exempt employees do we have?
Oh, boy.
Like a handful, there's a hand, so
No,
how many people do you have
maybe
there? It's,
Roundabout.
a lot of the policies would affect anybody that's not in a union. But the longevity wouldn't affect any department heads. Department heads wouldn't get longevity, only non-department, non-exempt employees.
Okay.
Oh, under 20, I'm going to say.
It is under 20. We only have 65 total employees, so it's definitely under 20.
Any further discussion? Could I get a motion, where are we here, to vote on the amendments?
Yeah, hold on a second. I make a motion, I was trying to get the language here. I make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to personnel policies, as proposed by town manager and finance director Wendy Markowitz.
Second?
A second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Thank you.
Wendy.
I think it's a big deal, right, get them all on the same schedule. I mean, it's
What do you say?
Yeah,
something you've been working on for a long time, Joe, to get
It, you
it
know,
is correct.
I'll give a quick example. In 2020, when the lockdown happened, we had 2 unions that were supposed to negotiate. and we had absolutely no idea what the financial future was going to hold. And at that point, I was able to go to them and say, hey, look, in the interest of just making sure we treat you fairly, how about we just take the terms of this contract and extend it for 1 year, and the next year we'll have a little bit better idea of where we stand. And they agreed to do that, so we held all the same terms that year. But that meant that they were then 2 to 3 years out of step with the other 3 unions that had negotiated the previous year. So when the next group of unions came up, I negotiated only 2-year contracts with them so that we could get all 5 on the same schedule. And
So these are, the ones just approved are 2 years?
no, these are now all in the same, these are now all new 3-year deals.
3 years?
I laid that groundwork a
Okay.
couple years ago,
Okay.
21. So.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is to review and approve meeting room use policy and license agreement. We'll discuss and vote. Do we have a document here?
They're in so as you had asked at the last meeting, we proposed a draft meeting room use policy and license agreement or application that would have to get signed and reviewed by department heads to be used. The agreements were based a little bit on the Patent Homestead use agreement, modified to include 3 meeting rooms. The memorial room at Town Hall when the Town Hall reopens. And we've identified it as 2 spaces in the Council on Aging currently because there is a plan to put up a movable wall to separate that space. So we identified it currently as the primary meeting room and the auxiliary meeting room. And this would kind of set the ground rules for how people can ask to use the meeting room. It does require them to complete an application identifying the responsible party and to provide an insurance waiver with certain restrictions, with certain minimum limits, covering the town in the event that something happens while someone not the town is using the room. I know it's a lot of information, and I don't necessarily expect the board to want to vote on it tonight, and you've only got 3 of you here right now, so if you wanted to, review it some more and have further discussion and come back at the next meeting, I certainly would understand that, but I definitely wanted to make sure we got it into you so that you could start to consider it.
So I just have a couple comments. First comment is, did we decide that it would be available to Hamilton Wenham folks only? Because I think about the Council on Aging, it's very intimate setting, and so I thought that would be an appropriate thing to do.
So, town council's opinion is that that might be difficult to defend. We can certainly lay out in the policy that the intent is for Hamilton and Wenham residents only. If it gets challenged, we'll have to kind of cross that bridge when we come to it.
Sure.
But once you make something public, it's public, and you can't, that's been the case in other instances. So we've framed this as.
So 2 different things, the people who can attend it or the people that can plan it.
Yeah.
People who can attend it has to be open to the public.
Has to
What
be
about
open to the
people,
public,
what
right.
about people who plan it?
We could certainly make that a condition. A condition is that it has to be
Hamilton Wenham
resident to be
Yeah.
the responsible party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're right. Thank
Yeah,
you
or a
for that.
sponsor, and
Right.
And then the second thing is, I like the idea of a policy. I think this policy, as written, I understand it's a draft, it's a little verbose, and
Lawyers.
I would like to see it streamlined and tightened up, and I'm happy to look at it and offer some edits.
Happy to have your edits.
I mean, yeah, I agree, I mean, 6 pages, but, and I'm wondering if the thought process is it's gonna be used somewhere else, but if it's only gonna be for these 2 rooms, we probably, and it's specifically these 2 rooms, you probably don't need to have it be 6 pages.
I
but-
really don't see any other rooms that the town currently owns that we
Right.
had, that specifically the town of Hamilton has control over that we don't. We already have a use policy and agreement in place for the Patent Homestead. The park is already under the rec department. There are no other rooms that would be suitable to being allowed to be used for public uses. The training room at the public safety building is one that people would ask about, but that's a public safety building. There's a lot that goes on there. It needs to be a secure location. We would never offer that publicly to be available.
It protects you from, I mean, it protects, the 6 pages does protect the town from having meetings we don't wanna have there, because there's a lot of verbiage you gotta,
Yeah,
but it also makes it a little onerous, so.
yeah.
Why don't you take a look at it, Rosemary, and see what you can come up with?
Yeah, and And then obviously bring it back to the board to review again. And if there was another space that became available at some point,
We'd-
then we could just
We'd bring it
edit
back to the
at that
board to
point.
be annotated. Yeah,
I just, again, think about the council on aging
Could-
I
and
understand.
And
I understand.
Joe, can you just walk me through what your, I mean, I've read the sort of the do's and don'ts, but can you just walk us through the approval process that you see happening? Like if someone wants to have an event,
It'd be administrative, so the building principal in this case, in the council, excuse me, in case of council on aging, it would be Teresa Woodbury or the future senior center director. At the town hall, it would be the town manager. Would make sure that they get the application completed, it gets reviewed by myself and, DPW or public safety, just to make sure that we feel like we can manage the size of crowd, and then it's administrative at that point. You set the policy, they have the agreement, as long as they provide proof of the insurance and they've completed the application, we can approve it. And again, it's public use, so we wouldn't be denying things on any particular, we wouldn't be denying things, as long as
unless
they
it
meet the
didn't meet the
conditions.
requirements of
Right,
the.
unless it doesn't meet the conditions of the use agreement.
Well, is it an opportunity to an earlier comment where we don't want the facilities or rooms to be political activism sites? Should we incorporate anything like that where, because we don't want to, what if there's something there that the town doesn't really
That's a,
sponsor, but
that's a danger, and I spoke with town council about that extensively, but free speech amendment says that we can't limit the speech. So if somebody comes in somebody using a public building doesn't not necessarily mean that the town endorses that use. It just means that they were a member of the public and we've allowed a member of the public to use the building. We're not really allowed to say you can or can't do this or that. We can't limit their free speech rights.
because we do say it can't be.
I had the heart-to-heart with town council, and honestly,
But it
with
says,
with the adoption of an agreement like this, the town could open itself up to being, asked to, if there was a local resident willing to sponsor, being asked to have something there that we don't want there. And there's nothing we could do about it.
Town hall.
Town hall,
and
Memorial Room,
Council for Aging.
2 rooms at the Council on Aging, that's it. Right now, this agreement would apply to those 3 rooms only.
Well, I think that was what we were just talking about, that it would have to be, the plan would be for a local Hamilton Wenham resident to actually initiate and be the responsible party. And- Oh, you're right, you're right.
Well,
but somebody could want to go, like, for,
we do partner on a lot of issues with Wenham. And, I mean, if the select board wants to amend that and have it be just Hamilton residents, I can understand that.
Trying to do
Our-
more and more joint things with them.
And our Council on Aging already partners a lot with the town of Wenham, so,
Yeah.
no,
no, good question.
it's a good question. I'm just trying to explain the thought process. But if the board wants to amend that, again, this is just the first draft, they can,
We have so many things in common with them that I think it would be hard to limit, I think it would just, because so many parts of the town that are combined. If there's an event came out of a school or came out of the library or came out of something else, it would be hard to separate it. But, I mean, I could see either way, but I thought it made sense to be Hamilton Wenham. But, and Joe, no fee? Is there?
it does, you can institute a fee. It's up to the select board if you want to add a fee. We haven't.
If it's for local residents, then I think it should be a perk. We pay enough in taxes. Right?
But
I
that,
mean, I don't know how
haven't
many
read
asked
it.
you, I mean, this came up because somebody asked to use a room, so we didn't realize if so I mean, it hasn't come up that many times. The question is like,
We had 2 people in the space of a month ask,
But
and it was
when
like,
the town
oh, well, we got to figure out how do we do
when the
this?
town hall gets renovated, it's gonna be a nice room, people
Yep.
want to use it, so.
The meeting room on the 2nd floor will be handicap accessible with the
Does
elevator.
Wenham
It's going to be a really nice room, so.
Does Wenham have a meeting rooms use policy for their?
I do not know. I haven't
Best?
asked. Haven't asked.
Not gonna vote tonight, we'll look at it, we'll consider it, we'll have more conversation about it, but I don't think I think it's the right thing to do to create meeting spaces for our town to do things, and we're have these nice spaces now, so, but we just gotta make sure we don't create something that backfires on us. Sorry, I don't wanna say but we're supposed to go to Mike to talk, just because people are online.
Yeah, please.
So Joe, I understand your concern about the free speech. Jeff Austin again, from earlier. So is there a path for concerned citizens that want to put a petition up, or what's the path there? If there's, or is there no path? For certain groups that are concerning to residents about using town facilities?
To promote things that
Right.
aren't maybe at the, the overall town's interest. I think that's where it's coming from.
So you're asking, would there be a way for a petition to stop something from happening?
Yeah, so I understand you're concerned about the legal side of it being infringing on somebody's free speech.
That's as it was explained to me by town council.
Right.
I was just repeating
No, I
the answer
understand
that I
that.
was given. And, I mean, I see both sides of it. There's definitely a concern, the classic example is if you open it up to one, then, what happens if, the United States Nazi organization wants to come into town?
Exactly.
How can you sell them out?
Right.
And the legal answer is always you can't.
Yep.
In this case, we're saying that in order for the Nazi organization to come to Hamilton Wenham, a Hamilton resident would have to put their name on the paper as sponsoring that and to come up with the insurance liability form, if this even gets approved. So that would be the path, but once you do that, you're open to that.
Yeah.
But this is also what the library here does. They open the library to groups and they don't endorse anything. Somebody is basically just renting the meeting space. So I think that's kind of what we're thinking about. And it also, it breeds tolerance. I mean, I don't have to like everything that somebody wants to pursue, but I think it's important that anybody who wants to rent a space within reason, right? Can't have child sacrifice or things like that, but.
Can't do anything illegal. I think that's in the policy.
I think that, and I agree with you, I think that, I think there should be a fee, because the town's not sponsoring something, sponsoring it in kind. So it should be a fee that somebody has to actually pay for it, if the town's not giving it for free to organization. I think it's important. A nominal fee, I think, but I think that crosses sort of, and then, right, it's not advertised by the town, it's not sponsored by the town, it's limited, it's not outside, it's in the room, it's like, so there's limitations on size and things like that. So I think we can work on it and decide what we do, but I think it's a good first step, Joe. Thank you for putting it together.
Yep.
I think it's important that we have a policy.
Yeah, and I agree. I think a fee too, and I think like if there's something that we incur an additional cost, like, I don't know, maybe it's in here and I missed it, but like it should be over by a certain point, or, because we want to make sure they're locked and secured. And if it goes over a certain period and we have to have somebody stay late to do something, then they should cover that cost.
We
That
don't,
would be the person who is the responsible party, right? Maybe a deposit, a damage deposit or something like that.
I would say, I know the library does, if you go over a certain time slot, there's an extra charge.
Oh, no, they
But
come
I
in,
think
they come in and they go like this to
Yeah.
you.
Or they'd send a bill.
lots of schools charge a custodial fee, so if
Yeah,
you're going to be in the
that's-
building after hours, then
Ah.
you get charged for the time of the custodian. That could be something. I actually prefer the idea that you previously said of limiting
Yeah,
the hours, like it's.
I think so.
You have to be out of the building by X time, you pick a time, 8:30 PM, 9 PM, something like that, so you limit the length of time. And I think this policy already says that it would be for non-operational hours, so like, we're not offering the meeting room during the hours of operation of the Council on Aging, we're offering it when the Council on Aging would be closed, and if we limit those hours to keep it finite, it might help us as well.
Okay, so we're gonna take this back. Rosie, I think you've offered to kind of streamline it
Yeah, I'm happy
potentially,
to
and maybe
have
we'll add some hours or.
Fees and things, yep.
Nominal
fees.
fee.
Nominal fee. Or deposit or something.
Cleaning fee.
All right, okay, good discussion. Next topic, schedule FY '25 goal setting
Oh, we
for the
missed-
town.
we-
Did I miss
Hot
one?
topics?
What's that?
Oh,
Did I miss the hot topics?
You go over the hot topics? It should be there. Where is it?
I don't see it.
It's not there.
Did we pass it up
Do you have an
top?
old agenda?
This is what was on the table.
Yeah.
I have it up here. I can go to the one live.
Do you have the one live?
I think so.
I I think we did add it. This might have been an earlier version of the agenda. I
Oh,
apologize.
okay, no worries.
I
Yeah, let me go back to it. Let's see.
Oh, well, then you didn't get it. You didn't get the actual document, Bill,
I
right?
printed out, this
Oh, it's
version of the
in- it's in
agenda,
the,
I printed out.
Yeah, this was on the table.
Previously, and that's what I brought to keep track of the meeting, but it may not,
It's in the packet.
yeah, it may not
Yeah.
jive with what was on
The proper agenda and the hot topics, but
Yeah, so I guess the next item will be a review of a one-pager
Oh,
about
it is
hot
here. You just did-
topics.
It is. Review one page about hot topics. It was supposed to be before the meeting we saw it, so.
Oh, okay.
And Caroline has a note here that she'd like to see us have it done by Friday so we can get it out as mailer, and so. I will
But,
do
yeah,
that.
Okay.
love it, but I would love it if it was one page.
Hence the name.
I had a hard time getting it on one page, Joe.
So a lot of that was not drafted by me. I contributed to the drafting, but I can take an editor's eye. Are there things in it that you are concerned about that I should take a first look at?
I think it's got a little, I think the detail's great, but I think if you're getting the detail, you probably can be referenced to a website or a department to call to get more information, but I think it's great. But I think it'd be better if it was one page. People aren't gonna turn the page.
Okay.
My
I would-
opinion.
I'll reduce it to one page. Do you want to authorize me to reduce it to one page and have that be, because if we want to get this done before
I mean,
Friday,
that's
you
my
won't have another
opinion. I
meeting.
mean,
You won't have
that's
another
my-
meeting.
that's
Yeah,
my
maybe we
opinion. I'm
should-
not sure Rosemary or Bill Wilson thinks, but
Rosemary, did you work on this with Caroline?
No, we never did,
Oh, okay.
collaborate for some reason, yeah.
Trying to find it.
I'm not gonna pull it up here, Joe, but it's really for the community to see, so maybe they can look at it and get, if they wanna make a comment, they can,
Yeah.
but I think it's a great little cheat sheet. It's on page 24.
This is slightly different because I was working on it again today.
So you have 4 hot topics in this, right? You got the Gordon Conwell, the Mass
3A.
zoning, 133 Essex, and then the second page was,
School building project, so all these have to be trimmed
There
just
it
a
is,
bit.
thank you.
I think if you trim like 4 lines out of each one, you can get it on one page.
And maybe by changing the font, I can get it out of Aptos into something that's a little smaller. That might help too.
I think it's a good thing to sort of have for
And
glance, right?
the idea is that we'd put this on the town website by Friday, and then we're gonna send out a general drop mailing to everybody to let them know about next Wednesday's forum. They'll be held both live here, Zoom component, about, the idea was originally to do a forum about all of these topics. I think it might be difficult in the amount of time that we're gonna have to touch on all 4, but we'll outline some things, make a short presentation, and then take some questions next Wednesday evening here. And so it'll probably be principally about the 3A zoning and the school vote, because I think those are the elementary school project, because I think those are the 2 things that have a lot of overlap and have they're the most time sensitive right now. We need to get people's input on those things and have them aware of what the different processes are and how they can plug into those. The 133 Essex is currently paused while the safe harbor is being appealed by the developer, and the Gordon Conwell, as we said at the top of the meeting, is progressing on its own pace right now. So we can answer questions about that to the extent that we have information, but we don't need to make a lot of presentation about Gordon Conwell next week. But all this information will live online on the website.
Yeah, I mean, I would just caution to get to one page if we lose content. That would not be good. I mean, I'm going through
If
your
you go
layout.
to like the school, go to the second page, right, Joe?
I mean, it's about a half a page over.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going to the school stuff. Let's give you an example, right? So like the third sentence down, it says, the school committee has several votes upcoming, and the Cutler School Building Committee and consultant team are targeting this June submission. And you could just say, the school building committee are targeting a June submission to the MSBA.
Okay.
And it says
Yep.
the same thing. So you
Yep.
just made like half the words, right?
Yep.
So
Yep, I can do that. I'll do that tomorrow.
Say something?
Sure.
I'm thinking
I
on
think
that,
so. I didn't mean to-
Yeah, she
that
may.
okay?
Yeah.
I didn't mean to speak for you, but sorry.
on that one, since
I
the
gotta
vote.
ask your name and,
Oh,
your
I'm
address.
sorry, Deb Safford. So because the school committee is voting on Thursday, like they're making their decision, you could cut out like 7 lines there and just say,
I was gonna
after Thursday night, the
Yeah,
vote
that's
was
true.
blank, right?
Yeah.
And that'll eliminate that part. If you go up, please, to the 3A one,
Yeah, I'm just gonna like this
Yeah.
so that I know to change all that.
I just think that that's like, that if that was mailed 2 weeks ago, that would make sense, but since the answer's
Yep.
gonna be there, unless they don't decide, and then that would be great too. But, on the 3A thing, I just wanna qualify, or clarify that the UTIL was hired, a resident advisory group has been established, a deliverable will be the 3A proposal for the town to consider. I don't recall that that's actually the deliverable. I think it was a development of the downtown. And 3A, according to the planning board, it was gonna be like a bucket. I think Jonathan Poole was talking about, like, let's pull out the bucket of Winthrop, let's pull out 3A, and let's focus on the development of the downtown. So I think that's gonna be very incendiary.
I didn't write this, but
Yeah,
I'll
so
look
just,
in this.
like, if you want to have the discussion, I think it's great to have a discussion about that, but I think we have to be really careful that that's not, it might be that the RFP said that that was the deliverable, but I think that that's been changed since that RFP was done, is my understanding from the planning board who was sort of running this. And this,
Planning board's involved, they're not running it, and they actually have been very careful to say that they aren't running it.
right, oh, so there's 2 people that are on it,
Members
that
of
were
planning board,
involved
2
heavily with you and
They
someone
are
else in
involved, but
doing it,
The
but,
HDC is also involved and
Sure.
several other stakeholders.
yeah,
It's-
I just think that, yeah,
But
so.
it does state the primary is to exploration of a form-based code to shape any future development. And it leads in because the sub-bullet is 3A, which is a big topic. One of the deliverables is this.
But
It's
it
not the
actually,
primary, right?
right, but I'm not sure that that's actually the deliverable of that committee, I guess,
Not of
is,
the committee, but.
Of
but the
3A?
contract with UTIL.
of UTIL,
Yeah, of the contract with UTIL, and it's, again,
as an example of like where the 3A would go and where it wouldn't go based on, okay,
as far as our reading is, our responsibility is to present something to town meeting and let the town decide. And unless we have something to present, we can't do that. So we're working to try to get the best plan for the downtown with form-based code and everything else. And then a part of this will be, hey, town meeting, do you want to do this? If you do this, it will comply with 3A. If you don't, it won't, but we still have all this other good stuff over here that we can still do. So it's not, again, it's not like we're trying to make sure it gets passed. We're trying to present options. And we're gonna be late anyway, so.
We're gonna miss it, but.
We're gonna miss it, so.
And the form base would, the way I look at it, correct me if I'm wrong, is it would actually put parameters around it and limit, 700 units, but it would say the form base will, promote other stuff in the area. It'll allow for X, and if a developer wants to do X, they have to follow this.
right. So 3A is a really hot topic, as you
Yeah,
guys know,
well, that's why we
right?
wanted it
And
as
so
a
it's
bullet.
great to have this discussion. And are you guys working with consultants? Like, are you going to be pitching it? Or are you just here to hear from people? Like, what is that meeting going to be like?
I think the idea for Wednesday
12th.
night, next Wednesday, is to kind of just make sure that everybody knows what's going on, ask people to plug in, ask people to get involved, give their feedback, give their perspectives, so that we get as much public input into this as possible.
Okay. Could I just do a public service announcement on one thing? That there is a bill that's being stalled in the legislature at the State House. It's an amendment to the 40A, I think it is.
40B.
40,
No, 40A.
it's 40A.
Is a section of 3A.
It's a 40A, which is a
Bruce
section.
Tar is,
It's that if you meet your 40B numbers, the 3A would be removed.
right, yeah, Bruce Tar
And
is
so
leading
that's a
that effort.
really, really important thing, that as a committee, that's supporting the town. There's so much pushback about 3A, like, we should be advocating for talking to our legislatures to have that go through, because then, like, if we meet our target with the seminary,
Exactly.
then the whole 3A argument within our town, which is really dividing our town, which is not a good thing, that would alleviate a lot. And I hope that you can bring maybe that up as
Yeah, no,
well
I
at
think
the
that,
meeting.
there's a lot
So it
of
can be an
things that could
information,
affect
this
it.
is what 3A is and this is what it isn't. And let's make sure we're all talking about the same thing. And we're not using like deceptive language to make people think that it's just a zoning, but it's never going to be built.
No,
It's the camel nose under the tent. If the nose is under the tent, he's inside the tent.
Trojan horse,
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah,
thank
no.
you.
And there's a lot of activity, I think, that in the fall that could change all of this, so.
That is also very true. So.
Yep.
All right, so make changes.
So, just so
break
I
this
know,
down.
because I read about that today as well, so that's 40A,
Yeah, so-
which for 40B, if you hit that number, which Gordon potentially could, then,
So chapter 40A is the general zoning housing regulation, and Section 3A, the MBTA law is
Yeah.
referred to as Section 3A because it's Section 3A of 40A.
Yeah.
40B is a separate proposal under zoning to specifically create affordable housing.
Yep.
The legislature didn't want 3A to be only affordable. In fact, they don't even have an affordable requirement within 3A.
Right. But based on the size, they'd be
Right.
less expensive.
Not
Not
necessarily.
necessarily.
You know,
On
like,
the train line,
Well-
on the commuter line, they'll be expensive.
yeah. It's a good, very good point. I think it makes sense to link the two together. So,
Hi. Stephen McWhorter, 18 Cunningham Drive. Just so people understand it, the 3A numbers make our 40B look worse.
Yeah, right.
it will, right?
Right.
And that's probably what they'll connect.
Unless we're able to get the
It's a
3A.
percentage. So the bigger, it's a percentage of, right? So that makes it worse.
It'll just increase the goal.
25% of.
And we all want affordable housing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's like 3A,
Yeah.
3A is not heading in the correct direction. And seeing how it's a hot topic, I might as well speak a little about the survey that happened. I'll talk to the school committee.
Yeah, that wasn't our survey, just to be clear. The
Yeah.
town, the school committee did that.
That
We
meeting's
did
on
have-
Thursday.
We had nothing to do with that, so.
Oh, I have a whole plan about all your numbers, so I don't need to ask a lot
Yeah.
of,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm anxious to hear too. I don't know. I called the chair and I tried to get out, they have nothing pulled together. There's a subcommittee,
yeah.
and they're gonna present it on Thursday, so we're all waiting to see it.
I saw it. I didn't see all the results,
Yeah.
but a lot of people thought it was,
Oh, you saw
Hey.
the survey, but not the consolidated results.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
but I'm going to give feedback. A lot of people thought it was a hacking exercise. It didn't really represent it was coming from the town. It looked like spam. But anyway, one of the first things they presented was a formula of 47%. All my numbers come off the state site. The reimbursement will be nowhere near 47%. So
Yeah, so
it creates a
we'll-
misleading survey or results. But anyway, thank you.
Yep, no, I appreciate it. Okay, so yeah, so I think we'll take that as an action to try to get, I am concerned we get, a lot is gonna happen and transpire between now and Friday anyway, so if we can get it there, let's get it there. I do think some wording can help it, even the lead-in could go away, so if we can get a one-pager, that'd be great. I would just caution on, let's not lose content from it, that's all.
Yes, sir.
All right, 25 goal setting for the town and the manager. Do we have a proposed schedule, timeline? I think that,
I was gonna say that we typically try to do goal setting in June. We're already in June, so, but in order to, thank you, everybody.
thank you.
See you again soon. I would ask that we try to do it in either late June or early July, so that there's opportunity for the board to have time to assess my performance against the goals.
Yep.
In
So is
time
there
for us to
something
meet again
that-
next year to,
Is there something that we can look at in anticipation of maybe putting this on the next or the one following meeting of here were the goals, here's kind of things that happened against them or anything like that, and then we work from that?
So we're
or-
asking you guys to pick a date to set a goal-setting meeting.
But I think a lot of what I'm saying is like, I think of like, what are our current goals? We have them, right? And then so how do we, extend them or say met it, and add or delete,
All right, So I know that the board had kind of reviewed me back in
Yep.
February, I think it was.
So Sean and
So
Caroline had that right
yeah,
up.
So we can.
So does that have all the goals? So we could start from that?
You start from that. That had the goals that I was being assessed on there, and so we typically, in the years past, we take those goals and some of them get carried forward and some of them drop off because they've been accomplished or
Right.
whatnot. If you don't have that, and Rosie, you might not because you weren't on the board at the time, so if you don't have that, let me know. We'll get you a copy, and anybody else that doesn't have it, I'll get you a copy, so that you can.
So maybe like between Caroline and I, we can use that document and kind of shift it into a forward-looking document. And
Well, that's
add to
usually
it.
what happens at the goal setting. We take
Right.
that document, we.
I'm just thinking if we have a live document, we can
Oh,
work
yeah,
on
okay,
from
yeah,
that, you know what I'm saying?
And then, I'm open to suggestions on when you want to do it, so.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot going on, but I think like, I haven't seen what's on the top agenda for next meeting, but I think should be within the next 2 meetings.
The board has at times had a special meeting to do goal setting, and a couple times they've even done it on a Saturday. You can do
Yeah.
that. You can do it all by virtual to make it easier for everybody, because that's now allowed under state law, if you thought that would make it easier.
Actually, I like that better, like a separate meeting. I don't know what you two think, but whether it's a Saturday.
Yeah, we use it on a Saturday.
So let's work to get a date, Saturday in June, and
I will meet with the chair.
I will-
I'll query you in the chair and see which
Yep.
Saturday in June you want to pick, and then we'll make sure the other members are all available and try and get it on the calendar.
so in the meantime, I'd just
15,
review
22.
last year's goals, and, I'll work with Caroline, or I'll flip it so we can, use that as a working document.
15, 22, 29, so maybe start with 22nd.
Tentatively, does that work for people, or is that aggressive? I will be here. We kind of check with Caroline, see if the 22nd works. In the morning, is there a time, or that you've done this historically, 9 o'clock?
Usually like 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock on the 22nd?
Joe likes to bring coffee.
And bagels?
If we do it by Zoom, you'll have to bring your own coffee.
By Zoom? Okay.
I don't know, if you
We could do it at the homestead. Is there a room that that's quaint?
It has to be a room that the public can have access to.
Okay.
Nobody's ever shown up. It has to be a room that the public can have access to. So we might actually be able to do it at the Memorial Room still, or we might have to do it by Zoom, because I don't think we can get a Saturday in June in this room.
Right. Let's shoot for that, the 22nd, see if that works. We'll start some emails going around at 9 o'clock, and we'll work on, just making sure we have the existing goals, and we'll kind of delete and add from there. And we can use this one pager even as a start with it, incorporate that in. There's a lot. Because I think too, depending on what happens Thursday with the schools, how does the town work with the schools at that point, really, on moving forward? There's a lot of connectivity that has to take place there, if it goes that way. Okay, I think we have a recommendation on that. All right, any new business?
This moment for me. Nothing from you?
Covered a lot of ground tonight. Moving things forward, which is good.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's a wrap at 8:25.